that's a very long journey, but this music thing has been a very serious and long journey for me. I was born in Tehran, and I moved a lot with my family. We had family all over the country, so my parents, they made sure that we always went to visit them. We moved around, we lived in quite a few different parts, but in my heart of heart, even though I was a kid, I always knew we weren't staying, because my parents always talked about going to Canada, because I had an aunt who lived here. Growing up in Iran, I felt like everyone in my family was always listening to Persian music, and I kind of really fell in love with rock and roll. So I started listening to Metallica and Nirvana, and I didn't really share all of that with too many people. It was really my little secret. You know, I was a teenage girl. My parents didn't really feel comfortable talking about sexuality to me, and like Nirvana had a lot of really like sexually explicit album covers. And I think it was basically that I was afraid of telling them that I was listening to In Utero. When we came to Canada, I asked my dad to buy me a guitar. He bought me a nylon string classical, and it wasn't long before I traded it and got an acoustic, because I really wanted to like be able to plug it in and get louder. I didn't think playing Metallica sounded as good on a nylon string. So, and then music just kind of became a distant part of my life after a few years of like really getting into playing the guitar. Then I went to college, I went to university, I moved to Vancouver, and then after I did my master's, I moved to San Francisco. My guitar just kind of became that thing that I moved with, but kind of gathered a lot of dust. Like I wanted to discover more and more music, but I never really dared like even explore the possibility of writing a song. Until one day I was sitting down with a friend of mine, and we were jamming, and she played a very beautiful song for me, and I asked her whose it was, and she said it's mine. And it was the first time that I knew a human being in front of me that had written a song, and I thought it was really beautiful that instead of getting angry at it was a breakup song, so instead of getting angry and expressing that disappointment of a breakup in any way that you can do, she created something very beautiful out of it. So that kind of became my hook with music. I went to a talk at Yes Montréal, and they were talking about how you need to invest in yourself. And that's when I knew I needed to go back to get a job, because it was at a point where the cost of being in a band was way more than what was bringing in. So I needed to make sure that that was covered. You need to be a starving artist, and that's a myth. Like people really want to romanticize that idea that you gotta be broke in order to like write songs about like what do you want to write about? Why? The first song I wrote was about how much I hated my boss. So it's like your job will definitely inspire you. What you do with your 5 to midnight is up to you. And I don't really think that I would ever be bold enough to say that the scene is like this. I think there are certain individuals in the scene that will sway it one way or another. To give you an example, my band is all male, and they're the most supportive people I've ever met in terms of supporting another person's, a female leadership as their band. But I've had experiences where there's certain people, like they tell you, you don't look real, you don't sound like yourself, you look like you're faking it. Like there's a lot of comments about the way I look. I've really surrounded myself with wonderful people who make all the noise cancel out. Respect is a really huge thing for me. And I say respect and not peace and love, because you can't always love everyone. And unfortunately, as I'm experiencing on a daily basis myself, you can't be peace all the time, but you can learn to respect. We're never going to always agree on stuff, but we need to at least respect the people that are taking the time to speak out about their pain, about their expectations, about their experience, and I stand for that.